Welcome to the IT Channel Inbound Marketing Podcast, episode number 9, Inbound Marketing Tips for Small and Mid-Size IT Companies. I am your host, Joshua Feinberg, and I'm joined today by Mark Kilens, leader of HubSpot Academy at HubSpot in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The IT Channel Inbound Marketing Podcast helps IT channel companies, especially those in IT consulting, computer repair, managed services, and cloud, use inbound marketing and content marketing to attract highly qualified visitors, convert visitors into engaged leads, close sales faster with the right kinds of clients, and delight clients for long-term retention. In this episode, we are going to look at inbound marketing tips for small and mid-size IT companies. So I'm here with Mark Kilens, who heads up the HubSpot Academy. For those of you that aren't familiar with HubSpot, it's some marketing automation software that helps companies of all sizes be able to attract, convert, close, and delight customers more effectively. And the first question that I wanted to ask Mark, and by the way, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure, Josh.
The first question that I wanted to start with is, where do you see most small IT companies getting stuck with their marketing and in particular inbound marketing?
It's a very good question, and I've actually worked with a few small IT companies, both in the service space and then OEM type companies. And I think the biggest challenge for a small IT company is really understanding what types of content are going to attract the right types of potential buyers to their business. And really what it comes down to is spending the time to research this up front. You're going to want to spend a good amount of the time first actually understanding who you're trying to go after. We call this process buyer persona research. And it doesn't have to be something that takes months and months and months and you don't do any content creation during that time. But it's a process that evolves over time, and it's going to help those small IT businesses understand what are the pain points of their customers now and of the potential customers they're trying to attract. And it's going to help them really tailor the content and the messages they deliver and write on their website to better convert those people once they do find the business online. And it's going to help them close these potential leads after they convert, because you'll have a lot of sales collateral now. A lot of these companies don't have a ton of great sales collateral to help the sales team answer very common questions or even very in-depth questions. So I do think it starts with research, and I don't think enough small IT businesses or even small businesses do enough research and planning up front. They kind of dive right in without a really great plan or even a somewhat great plan, and they start getting into the weeds and a little bit lost.
So they kind of need to go not only to their existing customer base, but to potential customers that they're trying to attract and really find out what the big problems are they're facing and create content around that.
And you can do this by just listening to things that are happening on LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn groups, it's a great place to listen for common questions. You might want to buy a LinkedIn premium type account, because then you could do a lot more custom searches based off different keywords, different locations, because a lot of these smaller businesses, Josh, are localized. They're servicing 50-mile radius, 100-mile radius, whatever it might be. And it's going to help them if they do some listening, even on Twitter, I said LinkedIn, even Google Plus maybe now, maybe some niche sites that IT professionals, trade publications go on, even the old school, we call it old school, but the print publications, that could be a good place, because those are the things that are impacting the potential customers they're trying to close.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I know you talk a lot about solving for the customer. how would you take some of that research that they've done and the active listening to figure out the pain points and figure out a plan to be able to solve for what the customer ultimately needs? Is it basically the same idea with figuring out the pain points in the buyer's journey?
It's similar. You could also, to solve for the customer, one of the best ways to do this is actually going through the organization, and it could be 10 people, it could be 5 people, and asking the one account executive or the small support team that the business has, and asking them, what are the questions, what are the problems your customers right now are asking you, and how are you solving them? One of the things that is really important when you talk about solving for the customer is paying attention to the effort a customer has to take to get an answer to fix one of their problems. And I think doing the research online, interviews, like you mentioned, Josh, is really good. It's going to help you develop your buyer personas, develop a much more targeted audience to market and sell to. But then even talking to and sitting down with everyone at the business, especially for the small business, 10, 15 people, and interviewing them and asking them about what are you hearing every day in your emails and your phone conversations, and using that to create really short explainer videos. So you're telling and teaching customers and leads and prospects the same thing, and it's in a very consistent tone and voice, and writing the right content to help them, the right blog articles, the right guides, the right checklists. So I think a lot of it, too, comes down to looking inside of your own business and what can you learn from the interactions that have already taken place.
Do you have any tips for how a marketing person in a company like this can, not so much with their existing customers, but with potential customers, to get them to be willing to talk with them, so it's not perceived as kind of a hidden attempt to start a sales process?
That's a really good question. Yeah, you don't want to come off too brazen and just say, this is all for me as a business. I'm not going to really give you anything for helping me. One of the ways you can position a lot of this research is to explain to customers a few things. One being, I want to learn more about you and your business. If I know more about you and your business, I can make our product or service that much better for you. And really, if you say that, you want to make sure you follow through and do that. It can't just be lip service. But that's what a lot of companies do also with research. They use it for marketing and sales, but now a ton of businesses, especially like HubSpot, use it to develop new products. So that's one way to position it. Another way is to provide some reciprocity, right? They're helping you out. That's a positive action, and you should respond with another positive action. So if you're an IT services company and one of your customers really helps you out, they're willing to do an in-depth interview, give you a lot of information, provide them maybe with an extra 2 hours of services for that month. Provide them with an expert to talk to. Provide them with maybe an additional feature of your service, or if it's a product, provide that feature for the product. So I think positioning it is really important, but then also using kind of the reciprocity element of marketing and just human interaction is also really important. So they are willing to do that again, and they really see that you are really trying to help them and make their business and their lives easier.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I first learned about this idea 3-4 years ago in Tuned In with David Meerman Scott, and had some great examples on how to break the ice. But so many people in our space in IT and a lot of the decision makers they sell to have become so cynical and so jaded that, yeah, there's got to be some strategy in place to what's in it for me. We even see it with things as basic as a survey, to get somebody to spend 5-10 minutes engaging with a survey. It's either drawing for something or some kind of bonus that everyone gets or something, and it makes an enormous difference on lifting the participation rates.
It really does. I used to do a lot of survey research a while back, and you pretty much always have to somehow incentivize people. Unless you have a very, very close relationship with someone, like a customer, it's going to be tough to get them to take an action because everyone is so busy, unless it's benefiting them in some type of way. Like you said, Josh, what's in it for me?
Yeah, I mean, when HubSpot sends out the one question net promoter kind of survey, anyone will spend 10 seconds to answer one question, but when you want them to start taking a few minutes out of their day to not go on to the next message on their inbox. Yeah, it definitely comes up. One thing I wanted to ask you about was I know that you're a big believer in tying client delight with employee delight. And HubSpot seems to be really, really plugged into this with the culture and the slide deck that Dharmesh Shah put together. Are there any great standout examples in IT services or more broadly professional services you can think of where they're doing just a fantastic job of delighting customers and trickling down into client satisfaction and growth?
Specifically in IT services, I don't think I have any exact examples in terms of delighting employees and then how that helps customer delight. Not exactly in IT services. I could just share with you some things that we've learned here at HubSpot and other organizations that I've worked with. I think a company that really gets it would be Block Imaging. The B2B medical imaging refurbished equipment company, and they went through a huge transformation about 2 years ago. They bought HubSpot, I think, about 2.5, 3 years ago. And they went through this transformation where they realized if they really wanted to grow their business and start tapping into new markets and new verticals, they're going to have to involve the entire company in the marketing, in customer delight, and sales even. So what Block Imaging did, and I think what a lot of businesses need to do, is they empowered their employees to do this. They gave their employees more time and more resources to help educate customers, spending more time with customers. We've taken the same approach in our support organization. We've been through a little transformation in the support department where we're going to solve the problem, but then we're also going to make sure there are no other problems that the customer has. They might not have asked us those problems, but we're going to ask them, do you have any other questions? Do you need help with anything else? And we want to make sure that customer gets off the phone and they feel really, really satisfied and happy. The thing about customer delight is that it doesn't really matter what you tell someone over time. There could be a lot of interaction, and there's a lot of things said over the phone, over email, however. But what those things that you say and do create are feelings. And it's really how the customer feels over time. It's so important. And it's how the employees feel over time. Are they empowered? Do they have autonomy? Are they given extra time? Are they even rewarded for some of their great contributions to the business? I think that's really key. And recognition is also very important when you're talking about employee delight and how that will trickle down to customer delight. Even customer recognition is important. At HubSpot, we have a tier program for our partners. We look at our partners, and we have silver, gold, and platinum levels, and that's some serious recognition. It comes with some benefits, right? So I think it's all of those things, and if you can really empower your employees by giving them some extra time, giving them some more freedom, it's going to help the organization out a lot because it's going to help the organization solve for the customer at all the different levels.
Yeah, it's great to see examples of how that's really comes full circle with inbound marketing. And I know you talk a lot about the businesses that become the best educators will win out in the market. So there's definitely, not hard to see the benefits there with staying top of mind.
Block Imaging is a great example, Josh. Sorry to interrupt there, but Block Imaging, if you or any of your customers, prospects want to learn about Block Imaging, their website's blockimaging.com, and they have really done a very good job in terms of that. And I think Krista, the VP of Marketing, would be happy to speak to anyone about this because, like I said, she went through this transformation and it's really changed the organization.
Yeah, a lot of times to find the best examples when there's not a single example within the industry, you kind of have to look a little sideways. It's like the Seth Godin quote that if you're waiting for the perfect case study in your industry, by the time it comes up, it's too late.
That's a good one. It is, yeah. That's a great quote.
I think I actually saw that in a Brian Halligan slide deck a year or two ago, maybe 3 years ago. I think it originally came from HubSpot.
I wouldn't be surprised. He also says, you want to skate to where the puck's going, the Wayne Gretzky quote.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
The final question I wanted to close with is, what do you think for a smaller mid-sized IT company that just signed up with HubSpot, what do you think is really critical for them to do in the first 90 days to make sure that they're set up for long-term success with inbound marketing?
Education and training. You have to have a solid foundation of education and training on both inbound techniques, attracting, converting, closing, delighting, and HubSpot. You want to focus on the education that HubSpot and a partner like yourself, Josh, will provide, and really make sure you understand those concepts and how to apply them with HubSpot. Crystal Dolce, who does a ton of training, part of the Academy team, has a great quote regarding this. You can forget what you learn, but you can't forget what you understand. You want to spend those first 90, 120 days really understanding the process, the methodology, and how to apply that. I think if you do that, you're going to be able to create a much better plan. You're going to be able to execute that plan much better and in a more efficient way, and the results will start coming in faster. If you don't do that, you might do things that actually over time don't help. They might even hurt potentially, and they might be even attracting the wrong people to the website. You be converting the wrong types of leads. I've seen that sometimes. And then people get frustrated and they start spinning their wheels, and they think it's not working. So if you can devote the time to truly understanding the process, I think that's the most important thing.
Excellent. Well, I'm a big fan of what you do with HubSpot Academy. I think it makes a huge, huge difference in HubSpot's success and ultimately the retention. And it's really cool to see in the couple of years that we've been a HubSpot customer how HubSpot continues to invest aggressively in growing out your team and your offerings. And I can't say enough good things about all the great webinars that you do and all the great guests that you've brought on. So that's been a huge, huge asset.
Really appreciate it, Josh. Just so you know and other people know, we're going to be going through a transformation. It's already started at HubSpot Academy. We're changing a lot of our introductory content to start with into a much more short video format. We're still going to preserve the live labs, we're now going to call them, and live interaction that a lot of the customers like and they see a lot of value from. But to help customers, like I said, understand the concepts and how to use the tools even in a more efficient way, we're going to really take a 30 or 60-minute training class webinar and put that into 3 very high-quality, short videos that will explain those topics in a much more concise way. So you'll see some big changes coming down the road, and Crystal Dolce and Nick Sell is also working on a big intermediate and advanced training training options, I should say, that are going to help people understand how to do a campaign from attract all the way to delight, and how to optimize your blog, and how to take your blog or landing pages or any part of inbound marketing to that next level, that next plateau. So a lot of developments, and I really appreciate you inviting me to the podcast, Josh.
Well, it's been my pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time. If somebody wants to learn more about what you're doing at HubSpot, what's the best place for them to keep track of you?
Yeah, are you asking more about the education side, or more about like what HubSpot does, the software? What type of angle are you looking for?
You're pretty active on Twitter, so where can somebody follow you? And then where can they learn more about it? Yeah, and where can they learn more about inbound?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, like Josh said, at Mark Kilens, MarkKilens. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just Google my name. All of my social profiles will come up. Inbound, though, the HubSpot blog is a great place. blog.hubspot.com. Let me see if I can find the URL, but hubspot.com/inbound-marketing is another good starting place. But the blog is great. They publish multiple times a day, and they have a lot of good content for all skill levels and for all different types of topics, and even sometimes industries. I know we've in the past have written about IT in particular, and the blog has a ton of good authors contributing.
Yeah, I saw there's a case study that just went up, I think, a couple of weeks ago with NEC using HubSpot Enterprise, using it for, obviously not for the whole company, but for it looked like their North American channel program, doing a lot of cool things with inbound.
Yeah, NEC. I've worked with a few other actually Fortune 2000 companies in the past, two software companies. So we definitely have, like I said, big IT companies, but I've worked with actually multiple small IT companies that have 5 employees, 10 employees, and like we talked about over the last 15, 20 minutes, Josh, if they understand the process and they can start applying it and create that plan with the help of HubSpot Academy or a consultant or an account manager even, they're going to be seeing some great success down the road.
Awesome. Well, again, we're huge believers in HubSpot, huge believers in what you've been doing and continue to do with HubSpot Academy, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today on our new IT Channel Inbound Marketing Podcast. Been here with Mark Kilens, who heads up the HubSpot Academy in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Thanks again, Mark.
Hey, my pleasure, Josh. Thanks for having me. You have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care now.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the IT Channel Inbound Marketing Podcast. If you learned something valuable from today's episode, please search for the IT Channel Inbound Marketing Podcast in the iTunes podcast directory and give us a 5-star rating. To get access to past episodes and be notified about upcoming episodes, be sure to visit www.sphomerun.com/podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you back again next time. Take care now.